Duncan Tonatiuh is the award-winning author-illustrator of this book, Funny Bones, Posada, and His Day of the Dead, Calaveras. Tonatiuh was born and grew up in Mexico. He's named after the Aztec god of the sun. And so his artwork is inspired by ancient Mexican art like the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Mixtecs. He graduated from Parsons School of Design in New York City, and he's written and illustrated several other award-winning books. I made my selection because I found the topic interesting. I have a lot of sugar skull decor around my house. This guy is one of my faves. Also, this was chosen since the book won a Siebert Award in 2016. It was a Pura Belprix honor book. It made the New York Times Best Illustrated Children's Books of 2015 list and was an International Latino Book Award finalist. So it's an award-winning book, and it represents diversity in literature all in one fun, non-fictional package. Have you ever wondered where those fun, colorful Dia de los Muertos skulls and skeletons come from? Funny Bones showcases the life of Jose Guadalupe Posada, the Mexican artist whose Calavera illustrations are still used today in Dia de los Muertos celebrations in Mexico and the U.S. Tonatiuh uses step-by-step guides to showcase the techniques used by Posada to create the illustrations. Show you those. Here's some of the step-by-step guides that Tonatiuh gives, so we can see how Posada used lithography and engraving. Later, he also does a similar style for an etching tutorial. It does give an accurate recount of the social and historical impact of the creations as well. So these are the 7 things that I learned from this book. 1. Posada, the character in the book, drew political cartoons that drew negative attention from politicians. So he had to leave his hometown and opened his own print shop. 2. After a massive flood ruined that town and the new shop, Posada, his wife, and son moved to Mexico City, where he worked in several other print shops before again opening his own. 3. Dia de los Muertos celebrations span 2 days. The celebrations included going to the cemetery to weed or repaint the gravestones of loved ones, bringing food and telling stories about them, and some even hired musicians to play their loved ones' favorite songs. The cities were decorated for the occasion with calaveras, marigold flowers, paper cutouts. Vendors like this one here sold pan de muerto and sugar skulls for people to use in their ofrendas, which are offerings to the dead. Now, many of these traditions still exist today. Number 4, calaveras are used as a way to honor the dead, but also celebrate the living. Calaveras were used in Posada's drawings of the Mexican Revolution. He depicted the fighting and the leaders of the revolution. Here's those. He used them as sort of a political cartoon as well. He would praise the leaders of the revolution if he agreed with them and criticize them if he didn't. Posada's calaveras each represented a specific person or a group of people and not just the dead in a generalized sense. Now, very few people actually knew of Posada as a calavera artist while he was alive. It wasn't until after his death when historians and artists, including Diego Rivera, discovered him, so to speak. So next we'll evaluate the text. There is an extensive bibliography included, so this is how Tonatiuh documents his research, but he was also born and raised into the culture, so he uses a lot of his firsthand experience as well. The category of the nonfiction is factual. The structure is narrative. Tonatiuh tells the reader the information. The organizational pattern is sequential. It follows Posada's life and historical events chronologically. The style is very intriguing and engaging. He uses details in a way that doesn't overdo or detract from the story. Like I showed you the use of how Posada used the technical art. He also poses questions to the readers. So you can see with this picture of La Catrina, He poses questions to the readers. What's interesting about the graphics and the visual features is that the illustrations by Tonatiuh, the cartoon characters, intermix with the creations of Posada himself. So all the Calavera creations are actually original Posada illustrations or creations. So this one, like La Catrina, was done by Posada. This is Tonatiuh's cartoon characters. And they kind of intermix, and that's fun. He does have, I showed it just a bit, but I'll go back to it. The book does have a glossary, an index, and source notes here. There's actually 2 pages for all of that because it is very extensive. He has a note from the author as well, which is another double-page spread here. There isn't a graphical depiction of a timeline, but because the text is sequential, there's a timeline that the story follows and that the readers are able to follow along with as well. Now, this book did contribute to my understanding of the topic. I've said before that I grew up in South Texas, where much of the population is Mexican descent. Dia de los Muertos was a large part of my community's culture, but was never something that I fully understood because I didn't participate in any of the celebrations like the kids from the families where it was tradition. So this book gave me that inside view of what the celebrations are like and why they're held. I've always loved the playful, colorful skulls and skeletons. Like I said, I have a lot of them decorating my house to this day. But this text actually gave me a deeper understanding of these little decorations. They aren't just to look pretty or represent the dead in a generalized manner. From Posada's point of view, they're each a unique representation of a real person, and his illustrations captured the essence of the person or people that he was representing as a Calavera. Now, while the accelerated reader search will show that this book is for lower levels, many other sources show that this is an appropriate book for up through grade 5. I agree with the latter sources because the language switches back and forth from English to Spanish, and there are some technical details described, like the techniques that Posada uses. Some of those features may be a little too difficult or go over the heads of the younger readers, but spark an interest in older children. I think an ideal student for this book would be in 4th grade. I would absolutely recommend this book. It incorporates elements on nonfiction in a fun, interesting, and informational way, while also being just a fantastic representation of diversity in literature. Children from the culture will relate to the celebrations and the culture depicted, while children from other cultures will get a factual, first-hand feel for them and gain an understanding that they may not have had before.